All right, welcome everybody to week 3, day 2. Today we are going to continue our discussion of for loops in the context of strings. Okay, so we're going to dig into strings a little bit more and move main.cc. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about what it means to be a string. Okay. So a string, iostring, string, S. Out, please enter your name, cn into S. This reads one word. Okay. There's other options that we will learn later that allow you to learn characters, that will allow you to read sentences. But when you do a double right arrow into a string, it reads one. Okay. Weird. It's not staying on top, even though it's supposed to be always on top. Strange. Oh. Yeah, split screen. Okay. Am I going to share the screen? Do you want me to share the screen? All right, fair enough. How about this? So, string S, please enter your name, CNS. So this reads in one word. So we're talking about strings today, and we're talking about for loops today. So how do I, let's say, print out my name vertically? So if I ask you to type in your name, type in Bill, it prints out Bill. No surprises there, right? Okay, who's slowing my server down? Who's slowing me down? Botello. All right. Purge user Botello. Goodbye, Botello. Come back later. Okay, so let's say that I wanted to print my name vertically. In other words, B on one line, I on one line, L on one line, L on one line. In order to do that, I need to know something that I don't know yet. There's a couple learning points for today. First one of which is dot size. So if you say s dot size with open close parentheses like that, this tells you how many letters are in the string. Okay. So if I were to type in Bill and I were to see out CFS has s dot size letters in it. If I type in Bill, it'll print out 4. If I type in J, it prints out 3. If I type in Lobachevsky, prints out 11. Do you guys understand? If I type in 5. So this is how you tell how many letters are in a string, called dot size on it. Does this make sense? And it doesn't have to be s dot size. It's just like whatever your string is, dot size. So if you have two strings, you can get key dot size, for example. Okay. Second thing, this is learning point 1. Learning point number 1 for today is that. That tells you how many letters are in a string. Learning point number 2, how to get individual characters out of a string. Use .at. Okay, so if I wanted to write out what the first letter in, the first letter of S is, I would do this, s dot at. And then inside of at, you type in the index. Now in computer science, almost without exception, the first character in a string is at index 0, not index 1. The first character is at 0. The second character is at index 1. We always start counting from 0 in computer science, with very few exceptions, Lua and Fortran being exceptions. So if I wanted to print out the first letter of my name, I would say s.at 0. And this is going to return a character containing capital B. Okay. So I compile this, run it, type in Bill. Bill has 4 letters in it. The first letter of Bill is capital b. Now that's different from lowercase b, right? Lowercase b and capital B are not the same. So what is a string? A string is 0 or more characters. That's what a string is. You can have an empty string. In fact, you could say string s is equal to empty string. In fact, that's what string s is. If you don't initialize s to anything, that's just as if you type this. Empty string, open and close double quote. And if you see out s, followed by some laugh emojis, you'll see that it prints absolutely nothing there. Okay, not even a space. So the space there came from that. So thanks. So basically, yeah, a string can have 0 characters in it. It could have 1 character in it. You can start with like, I don't know, Z or something. And if you do that, then it'll print Z and all that. There's a difference between that and there's something called a char. Okay, so char C is equal to single quote Z. And this is our third learning point for today. Learning point number 3 for today is there is a variable type called char that holds single letters. Okay, so a string is 0 or more characters. Okay, so a character is a single letter, and by letter it could be lowercase a, capital A, 5 is a letter, exclamation mark, etc., etc. A character holds 1 keystroke, let's say, for lack of a better word, rather than making it redundant and circular and saying a character holds a character. I just say it holds a letter. It can hold the letter 5, like this. Okay, that's the letter 5. Okay, and so what's important to note is that a character and a string are not comparable. Like you can't say if S is equal to C. Like that actually doesn't work. You cannot compare a string and a character. If you want to compare like the first letter of a string, you can do that. And so you can do that like this. If S dot at 0 is equal to C, so, Z and Z are the same. Okay, and they'll quit. So do you see what's happening here? So even though these things look very similar, single quote for single characters, double quotes for strings, okay? Even though they look very, very similar here, let me make my face huge, there we go. Even though they look very similar, they're actually quite different because a string is a collection of characters. And you can't directly compare them. If you want to compare a string and a character, you have to grab an individual character out of that string and compare it. So in this case, we're going to grab the first character from the string, which is Z, and we're going to compare it against Z, and in fact, it is in fact the same. And if we do that, prints Z and Z are the same, and then it quits. Okay. And that is about all we need for now. We're going to get into CC type in a little bit. But what I'd like for you to do is to I'd like for you to do this, and I'd like for you to just copy this code action. And I equals 0, I is less than s dot size, I plus plus. This is your standard for loop for looping over a string. Okay. So if you want to go over every character in a string, like if you want to count how many vowels are in a string, if you want to count how many Q's are in a string, if you want to capitalize every letter in a string, this is your standard for loop. We're going to learn a different way of doing this on Friday, but this is kind of the standard way. Now, if you remember from our discussion on Monday, how many times is this loop going to run if I type in Bill for my name? How many times is this for loop going to run? Right now, it's not doing anything. I'm just asking you to use your powers of code reading and tell me how many times will this loop run. I don't have my coffee with me. First time we do lab time, I'm going to go get my coffee. 4 times. What are we typing? You're going to type this in a second. But, good. And then if we were to type in Barbarossa, what would it be? Right? Yeah, good. Yeah. All right, so right, and so what we're going to do is if we want to print our name vertical print our name, then what we're going to do is we're going to print one character and a new line, and then the next character and a new line, and so it's going to look like this: s dot at I. That's I, not one, in line. So the first time through the loop, I is 0, right? So if I type in Bill, the first time through the loop, it's going to grab the character at index 0, which is B, right? So if I were to draw this visually using my OneNote here, where'd you go? Putty is on top also, huh? Here, okay. CSI 40, new page, history. So if I were to type in Bill, the string is going to look something like this, with one implementation detail I'm going to leave out. So it's going to look like single quote, right, because it's a bunch of characters, B, lowercase I, lowercase l, lowercase l. This is index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3. So were I to pull this over to the right-hand side over here and pull you up here, you can see what's happening here is the first time through the loop, I is 0. 0 is less than 4, so it does the loop. It's then going to print s dot at 0, which is B, because B is at index 0. Okay? B is at index 0, so it's going to print B. Then I plus plus, I is now 1. 1 is less than 4, so it does the loop. It sees out s dot at 1, which is lowercase I. Then at the bottom of the loop, it does I plus plus. I is now 2. 2 is less than 4, so it prints out that, then it prints out that, and then I is now 4. 4 is not less than 4. It quits the loop and continues onwards. So this is why it's our standard for loop. We're going to loop over every character in a string. And so we're going to print out B followed by new line, then I followed by new line, L followed by new line, L followed by new line, then the loop terminates and we continue onwards. So you're going to get a warning and I'll explain that at a different time. So there you go. So we got Bill vertically printed. And if you want to be extra fancy, you could add like a cat of some sort. And so let's do Alessandra. And you can see it prints her name vertically with laughing, crying cat emojis after it. Okay. Kind of fun. I'd like for all of you to start off and just copy all of this code so that you're ready to go for lab time in a few minutes. So just, you don't need to copy the comments. Technically, we don't need that. Don't need that. Yeah. So just copy, copy the magic, copy the code. I'm going to take 5 minutes to go get my coffee and be back. Hopefully you'll all have it copied in by then. Okay? So I'm going to pause the recording now. Let's continue. So what you're going to do for lab time is you are going to count how many letters in your name are the letter E. Okay? So here's a loop that kind of like loops over all the characters in your name. What I'd like for you to do, maybe for me, I would count the number of lowercase l's or something like that, right? And so following the same pattern, you're going to go through one character at a time. And if that character is E, or in my case, I might be counting the number of l's or something like that, then I'm probably going to like increment a variable by 1, right? So I'll need to make a variable. And then every time I encounter an L, if s dot at I equals L, double equals L, increment the counter. And then after the for loop is over, print the counter. And that will say how many L's are in my name. So I'm going to give you 10 minutes to work on this. And let me write down this. Okay, lab time. First version, version 1. Count how many lowercase e's are in your name. Version 2. Count how many capital E's and lowercase e's are in name. Version 3. Count how many vowels are in your name. Okay, so this should be enough to keep all of you occupied for at least 10 minutes. I will check in with you at 3, and I'd like for all of you to post your source code then. We'll see where we're at. Either I'll give you the solution then, or I'll give you more time. It just kind of depends on how people are doing. Again, online learning has the downside of like I can't see, your screen. Excuse me. So, do you have any questions? Post them on the chat channel. Begin. All right. So, welcome back, everyone. And let's see what the answer is. So, basically, what we're going to do is make a variable. Remember, in C++, you have to make a variable before you can use it. And so, this is going to keep track of how many E's we've seen. Okay. And so then this is going to start at the first index, go to the end, and if the character of that index is an E, then we are going to add 1 to the counter. So we say counter plus equals 1 or counter plus plus for short. And then after the for loop is over, we are going to see out the counter. And if you get this warning, ignore it. It's fine. So Bill has no O's in it. Barbarossa has no E's in it. Re has 9 E's in it. But Re with capital E's has none. The reason for that is because it is case sensitive. So when you get my face back over here. So capital E and lowercase e are not considered the same. Okay. So there are s.at. Yeah, that's not going to work. So what you want to do is you're going to grab one character at a time, and you're going to compare it to the letter E. And if it's the same thing, we found an E, increase it by 1. So as we go along, every time we find an E, we add 1 to the counter, and at the end of the loop, we print out how many there were. Okay, so what if I wanted to make it so that it would work for like capital E's also? Well, I could do this, right? I could copy and paste it and do capital E, right? But as it turns out, there's actually a faster way of doing it. So C++ has a library called CC-type, and CC-type is the C character type library. Thank you. And this gives you access to various functions that work on characters. And one of them is called toUpper. So if we were to, for example, do this, character C is equal to toUpper s.at I, then the first time through the loop, s.at I is going to be capital B. And then it's going to convert capital B into the uppercase version of capital B, which is capital B. There's no double capitals or triple capitals. Just, if you pass in a capital letter, you get a capital letter back. Next time through the loop, I is going to be 1. So it's going to grab character 1, which is lowercase I. Lowercase I passed to the toUpper function turns it into capital I. And I could, for example, do this. Yeah, let's see. And if I type in Bill, I will get B-I-L-L in all caps. If I type in Jesse, I will get Jesse in all caps. So what I can do is just do that. And then if I were to compare C, which we don't need to print out, right? I'm just doing that to show you what it looks like. If I was going to compare the value of C against capital E, then that would match on lowercase e and capital E, right? Because if it was lowercase e, it would turn into capital E here. If it was capital E, it would stay capital E. And so this will allow us to say, hey, is it lowercase e or capital E? And if I want to modify this code so that it works with like all vowels, you just do this. Or C is equal to A, or C is double equal to A, E, I, or C is equal to O, or C is double equal to U, and that is that. That will count how many vowels in your name, not counting Y and W, which is just a whole bag of worms we don't want to get into because they are semi-vowels that are sometimes vowels and sometimes not, and I don't want to write code right now to figure out which one is which. So if I type in Bill, Bill has one vowel in it. If I type in Cameron, Cameron has 3, A, E, and O. If I type in Re, it's 12. If I type in Bajwa, got 2. Do you understand? Flickering through my face. All right. Is Ben Crowley here? Yeah, Ben Crowley is here. Was there anything else we covered today? In the previous class, I don't want you guys to get too much ahead of them. Oh, man. All right, 2 lower, if you want to lowercase it. 2 uppercases it. Windows key period to use emojis. .at, .size. Characters hold 1 character. Okay. And the CC type library. Oh, yeah. So Vim tip. Okay. So a lot of times you want to delete like an entire line. So inside of Vim, if you want to delete like this entire line here, what you can do is type D, and that deletes a line. If you want to delete 2 lines, you can go D to D, and that deletes 2 lines. If you want to undo that, you can type U to undo, and you can type U again to multiple undo. Now I can D3D, or whatever. If you want to paste the code that you deleted, D3D and or undo D4D, like if I want to put all that stuff up at the top here, I can type Shift P, and that pastes the code above the current line, and I can type lowercase p to paste what was cut below the current line. So as a Vim tip of the day, DD to delete a line, D3D to delete 3 lines, U to undo, P to paste below, Shift P to paste above. And that is your Vim tip of the day. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. Can't hear me? Oh. Is it not coming through? Can you guys hear me? You can hear? Okay. So U is for undo. I think that's pretty much all we covered in the previous class. So, McCurley, you got any ideas for extra lab time for them? So I feel like they didn't really get the full experience here. What can we do here? Missed the last lecture. I don't know if McCurley's here. McCurley, you here, dude? Server muted. No. I don't understand how we're able to pick a letter from a word. That is called s.at. So s.at grabs the ith letter of the string. So if we were to read in a word here, oh, right, we didn't do bounds checking. That's right. That's what we did in the previous class. So if I wanted to print out, like, let's say the 3rd letter, I could say s.at 2, because the 3rd letter is index 2, right? This is the index. The first letter is index 0. The second letter is index 1. The third letter is index 2. So if I wanted to print out the 3rd letter in a name, I could do it like that. This function here says, from the string s, give me letter at index 2. That's how you pull individual letters out of a string. And that's the specific letter. I just pulled out the specific letter, the 2nd letter, right? Which is L, which is not 1. Prototype Barbarossa. Then at index 2 is R. Okay. If you want to pick out all of the E's, what we're doing is we go through every letter in the string. So starting at index 0, going to whatever the last letter is in the string, we are getting each letter in turn. And if that letter is E, then we count it. Okay. So every time we see an E, or an A, or an I, or an O, or a U, we add 1 to this variable here, and then after the loop is over, we print out how many we saw. So this is, so we're not getting specifically E's from the string. What we're doing is we're looking at the first letter, the second letter, the third letter, the fourth letter, one at a time, going along, and every time we see a vowel, we write down, okay, we've seen 3 vowels so far. Okay, we've seen 4 vowels so far. Okay, we've seen 5 vowels so far. Okay. What if you want to print the letter? Okay, the 2 upper part. So the 2 upper part, let me show what that looks like. 2 upper. Let's do it like this. Okay. Character C is equal to 2 upper s dot at 2. 2 upper is a little bit weird. So what this is going to do is this is going to grab the letter at index 2 out of the name and then convert it into the uppercase version. So if I do this and I type in Barbarossa, it gives me capital R. See, at index 2 is lowercase r, and 2 upper gives me, if I can select it, come on, whatever, it's the R. Okay, it converts the R into capital R. Now if I did that again, and I had like all capital R's there, I still get capital R, because you can't double capitalize something. What if you wanted to print the letter like 4 E's and 2 O's? Okay. So what we could do is say if s dot at I is equal to lowercase e, or s dot at I is equal to lowercase o, cout s dot at I. So this will print just the lowercase e's and the lowercase o's from the string. So if I typed in Riedo, it prints out the E and the O. Okay. If I type in Bill, it doesn't print anything. If I type in E-Z-O, prints out nothing, right? Because it's only doing lowercase this time. But if I do a bunch of E's, a bunch of O's, and a bunch of E's, and a bunch of O's, then it's going to print out all those E's, all those O's, E's and O's. Any other questions? So what if I try printing out letter 200? Well, this is a good question. So if I type in Bill and it tries grabbing letter 200, then it throws an exception. So I actually get an error here saying terminate called after throwing an instance of out of range. So if I actually had 200 letters, like it would probably work. Let's see if I can get 200 letters on the screen here. Maybe something like this. I don't know. And you'll see it did in fact work. But if I just type in like Bob, then it crashes. Okay? And it tells us you tried accessing element 200. The string Bob is only 3 letters long, and so it quits. This is actually very nice. This is actually nice and well-defined behavior. If you use .at and you try to read past the end of the string, then the string will throw an exception and say, no, there's nothing there, and it kills your program, which is good. Because there is an unsafe way of doing this using what's called square bracket, which you should probably, hopefully, go through this entire class not doing. This is the same thing as .at, except it doesn't check the bounds. It'll just print whatever's in RAM there, or it might crash, who knows. So if I type in Bob, it just printed that, whatever that was. So who knows what's there, right? It's undefined behavior. Square brackets are very bad. It's just printing whatever's in RAM, 200 letters to the right of my variable. This is very, very bad stuff. So you want to use .at, and if you ever go off the edge of a string, it will throw an exception and kill your program. So if you want to copy a line, YY copies a line, and P pastes. So Y to copy a line, and then you can use P to paste below or Shift P to paste above. Okay. And that is our lecture for today. So thank you everyone for coming out. New Zybooks will be up later tonight. It's going to be on conditionals. It's going to be a little bit shorter than the last one, but not a lot shorter. So keep your head in the game. Keep up on top of it. I think you're seeing it takes a while to go through them, but it's necessary. It's necessary if you want to learn. You have to do the Zybooks. Pace yourself, spread out the homework, do a little bit every day, and that's how you become a computer science legend. Okay? So that's it. Your Simple Calculator is due on Friday. Next Zybooks is due on Wednesday, and then we'll probably have a new programming assignment for you on Friday as well. Also, not too bad kind of stuff. All right? Thanks, everyone, and peace out.